We cannot stop climate change. Climate change is happening right now. We are getting a taste of what lies in our future. In the past 3 months, we have seen one of the most destructive hurricane seasons ever, with billions of dollars of damage and millions of homes lost. Over 1,000 people are dead in historic monsoon flooding in South Asia, and the western United States is struggling with one of the worst fire seasons ever. Famines in Syria, Yemen, and Sudan have amplified conflict and created our world's first climate wars. We must act now to protect the future of our entire species. Both the Pentagon and NATO consider climate change to be a threat multiplier, amplifying existing conflict and creating new fights over diminishing resources such as water and food. Syria has the distinction of being the world's first climate conflict. In the lead up to the civil war, 1.3 million people were affected by agricultural failure in eastern Syria, where barley yields halved and livestock population plummeted. In an aid request to the UN, Abdullah bin Yahya, Syria's UN food and agricultural representative, said that the economic and social fallout from the drought was beyond our capacity as a country to deal with, and that this would add to the social and economic pressures presently at play at major Syrian cities. This is exactly what happened, with over 1.3 million farmers migrating to urban areas in 2011, tipping the unrest into full-on conflict. Climate change will only help to further destabilize governments like Syria, making conflicts like these more common and displacing millions of people. Along with increased conflict, climate change will cause historic sea level rise and displace billions. In a study by Cornell University, they found climate change will cause over 2 billion climate refugees by 2100. That is 1/5 of the current world population. To put this in perspective, that is 200 times bigger than the Syrian refugee crisis. This will hit poor, low-lying countries first, such as Bangladesh, home to over 164 million people. Every year, about 1/4 of the country is inundated with floods. That is right now, while our sea has only risen by 2.6 inches, according to the NOAA. They predict by 2100 a maximum sea level rise of 6.5 feet. This number is rising at an alarming rate as we pump more and more carbon into our atmosphere. Climate change also acts as an amplifier for extreme weather events like hurricanes, droughts, floods, and fires. These events already cause over $280 billion of damage a year, a number that will rise over the coming decades. According to Dr. James McCarthy, professor of oceanography at Harvard, we can expect extreme weather events and economic losses and costs associated with them to continue increasing unless we make dramatic reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. Here's the truly terrifying fact. We are about to plunge off a point of emissions where no matter what we do, we will not be able to stop the warming. Our climate is a complicated and interconnected thing, and it has feedback loops that amplify our already high emission rates. In Canada and Alaska lies a giant carbon source. In the frigid tundra, the ground is something called permafrost, which is frozen plants and animals that hold about 1.5 trillion tons of carbon, twice the amount of carbon in our atmosphere. When the permafrost melts, it decomposes and releases carbon dioxide. Scientists recently found evidence of melting permafrost adding up to 1.7 degrees Celsius of warming by 2100, unconnected to anything we do as a species to cut our emissions. Scientists believe that the best chance we have at avoiding disaster is to limit our warming to 2 degrees Celsius, something we are nowhere near doing. Last June, we watched our president pull us out of the Paris Agreement, a non-binding global climate agreement that was the best chance we had to cut our emissions globally. Our government is actively destroying funding to climate research and destroying laws limiting our emissions. Right now, we have Scott Pruitt as in charge of our EPA, a man who does not believe carbon dioxide is a factor in climate change, and in his time as Attorney General of Oklahoma, sued the EPA 14 times. Our government is hiding evidence of climate change by defunding organizations showing us the evidence that it is happening, prioritizing immediate profits of oil and coal companies over our entire future. 2 days ago, Pruitt started the process of destroying the Clean Power Plan, a regulation limiting power plants' emissions and funding green power, saying in his announcement that the war on coal was over. Our government cares more about the coal companies' profits than every single person in this room's right to have a future. Last month, I met with my congressperson, Representative Eric Paulson, to make my voice heard. I, along with other concerned constituents, confronted him over the House budget cuts of the NOAA, the EPA, and climate education programs. He reacted with indifference, informing us that he did not know what was cut in the budget, and that he had not heard from constituents on the issue. Every person in this room has a voice, and every person here has a stake in this fight. I urge every person to pay attention to climate change, to let your elected officials know that you care. Vote for people that support our future, make your voice heard, even just discuss climate change. This speech should scare you. I came here today to tell you the truth, and the truth is that the odds are stacked against us. However, do not give up, because the consequences of not acting now are quite literally life or death. I hope I am wrong. I pray I am wrong. But the overwhelming evidence shows that if we do not stop this, these things will come true. So please, fight for your future, because no one else is.